Cleaning scams. Yes, we're going to talk about cleaning scams and cleaning scam alerts today. Hi there, I'm Angela Brown and this is Ask a House Cleaner. This is a show where you get to ask a house cleaning question and I get to help you find an answer. Now today's show is brought to us by housecleaning360.com. As you settle in for the summer into your new home, you may need some home decorating, and the person that can help you, you will find on housecleaning360.com. There are all kinds of painters and home decorators and people who can help you with drapery and fabrics and landscaping, electrical work, plumbing work, whatever you might need for your home. You can find that person on housecleaning360.com. Now, if you're a business owner and you offer any of these services that service the home, make sure your business is listed there so that people in our network that we're funneling to there will find you. All right, on to today's show, which is from a house cleaner who thinks she might be in the middle of a scam. Check it out.
I answered an ad on Facebook in regard to a couple needing someone to come and clean their house 3 days out of a week. They stated that they will pay me $500 a week. I'm having some issues with that because they're asking for my full name, address, and telephone number so that they can send it over to their financier so that their financier would cut me a check. However, they currently do not have a house because they are waiting on their realtor to give them the keys. So I see that's a couple of scams, appears to be a couple of scams all rolled into one. What would be my best reply back to them?
Alrighty, that does sound like a bunch of scams rolled into one. So the very first thing that I want you to ask yourself when you feel like you're being scammed is, what is it about your antennas that make you think you're being scammed? Is there something about the email, whether it was the way that it was written, whether it was that it was a blind offer, or whether it was broken English, or something about the email or the text or the phone call that you got that made you think it was a scam? Because your intuition picks up on a lot of unconscious little things and nuances that maybe your conscious mind isn't even aware of. And so if you have this suspicion that maybe it's a fraud, it probably is. All right, the next thing I want you to think about, if you were contacted for some kind of a gig or a house cleaning job and somebody wants to just pay you up front. First of all, that is not how the business is done. The business is done by you run an ad, someone responds to the ad, and then you go over and you do an estimate or a walkthrough of their property, and then you give them a price. If someone just randomly calls you up and says, hey, I will pay you $500 to come clean my house, that should cause some red flags, just because that's not industry standard. That's not how we do it in the business. So if that happens to you, it's probably a scam. All right, the next thing to think about is, have you earned the right to have this conversation? So if someone is contacting you out of the blue, ask yourself, why me? Why are they contacting me? Did they say, oh, hey, Jennifer, my friend Susan, whose house you cleaned, highly recommended you and said because you were so thorough in this area, and this area, that you would be perfect to help me clean my vacation rental? Did she say those things? If she did not say those things and she's calling you blindly, what, out of a phone book or who knows where they got your information, that should cause a red flag, right? That's a scam or that's a fraud. So if you have not earned the right to have that conversation with this person, it's probably a fraud. All right, the next thing I want you to think about are third-party transactions. A third-party transaction is this. It could either be with money or a key. I'm a vacation owner and I'm not there. So if you come to my house, I will have someone else let you in, right? That's a third-party transaction. The painter, the realtor, someone else can let you in. Well, that is possible, right? That might be legitimate. But if this person who's away has the power to give someone a key, they also have the power to give you a key, right? If they're willing to hire you for $300 or $500 or whatever the scam says, they should also be able to overnight you a key. No. Overnight me a key or send me the alarm code. I don't need a third party. I don't want a third party there. If I go into the house, I want to make sure that I'm going in by myself. I don't want another person there, right? It raises the stakes. All right, so that should kind of raise some red flags for you as well. Now, if they say, oh, I have some kind of a problem with my bank account, or they've closed my account, or I've just opened a new account, or whatever, that should be a red flag, right? If you have the ability to pay me the money you're promising, you also have the money to pay the other person you're asking me to pay. And they do this a lot. I will give you a check for way too much money, and then you will give part of it back to the realtor to pay them, or part of it back to the painter, right? So the answer is no. You are not a bank. Money does not go through you to someone else. If the person can pay you directly, they can pay this other person directly as well, right? There are apps like Cash. And with Cash, you can send someone cash, even if you don't have a bank account. And with something like PayPal, for example, you can use a check or a bank account or Western Union the money, or you can use a credit card or a debit card or whatever. There are gobs of options where if they can pay you, they can pay this person. So when you get an email or a text and it seems like it's probably a scam, it probably is. Now, here's the catch. It might not be. There are gobs of vacation renters around the country who own rental property and they are not there. And they do want somebody else to come let you in so that person can vet you and that person can meet you. So what I might say to them is this: hey, this seems like a fun opportunity. Can you share with me a little bit more information about your property? Very quickly, if it's a scam, they will come right back with all kinds of things like, oh yes, it's on this street and I need it cleaned at this particular day and I'll give you this amount of money, and they give you way too much information, right? If they give you way too much information, that's not going back and forth. That's them trying to hook and sink you, right? You're done. All right, so just be aware of what they send you back in return. And then they're going to try to say, can you start tomorrow? Or something like that. They try to close the deal very quickly. What you might say is, hey, listen, this sounds like a good opportunity. Can we get on a Skype call where we can chat face to face? I would love to answer your questions personally. Now, when you say that, if it's a scam, they will delete and block you, and you will never hear from them again. If it's a legitimate homeowner, they'll say, yes, I don't know how to work Skype, but let me figure it out. Yes, let's do this. You come highly recommended by someone else, and then they will start a normal conversation. And you can always ask them, hey, I'm curious, for marketing purposes, can you share with me where you got my information so that I can thank the person that sent you the referral? And that way they will tell you really quick, oh, I got it from Thumbtack, or I got it from wherever, and they will give you the name of where they got your information. If they just pulled it randomly off the internet, yes, it's probably a scam. If it came through a neighbor that you know whose house you've cleaned, now you have someone you can vet. Hey, your friend Gina just called and she says she has a vacation rental, and she mentioned that you gave my name as a referral. I don't know Gina. Is she cool to work for? Like, what can I expect? And just get another vibe from Gina before you then do the transaction with this person. But I do want you to be aware of this. There are a lot of scams out there, and there are a lot of cleaning targeted scams because the house cleaners are there to make money, and so they're vulnerable. And you want to believe that you're good enough at what you do, that people just want to randomly hire you. But the reality is nobody wants to randomly hire you. People are very skeptical. They want your Facebook information. They want to research you on the internet. They want to find out about you. And so when they ask you, can you send me your driver's license? No. Can you send me your bank account information? No. Can you give me any other personal information that I can steal from you as stealing your identity? Let me check. No, that's not how it works. So if there are red flags and antennas that have gone up that says, watch out, please watch out. It's way easier to turn down a job right now than it is to try to get out of one if it's already cost you thousands of dollars. This person has stolen your identity and your bank account information. Alrighty, that's my 2 cents for today. Until we meet again, leave the world a cleaner place than when you found it.